All right. Well, it's noon, so we're going to get things started here. The presentation should be up on everybody's screen at the moment. Just shoot me a message in the application if you're having trouble. But we're going to just start flying through it, and I'll do my best to verbalize everything on the slides in case anybody can't see it. So, my name is Steve Jurken. I'm Director of Interactive Solutions for Marquette Group. We are a directional marketing agency based in Illinois. We have 5 offices across North America. We provide qualified local customers and leads through our media strategies. Essentially, the different solutions that we bring to our clients are categorized into 4 different groups here: local, social, mobile, and search. We're going to be talking about local, search, and mobile today for most of the presentation. I'd be more than happy to answer more questions about who we are and what we do, but just based on trying to respect everybody's time, I think we're going to fly right with it. So if there are any questions, we can connect after the session is over. So today we're going to talk about the conference that Marquette recently attended called SMX West. It's a search marketing expo. It was held in San Jose about 2 weeks ago. It's a very extremely tactical type of conference where you're talking about the actual strategies and the actual implementation of improving your search marketing. As opposed to some of the more high-level conversations or the strategy-level conversations. So a lot of the concepts that we're going to review here today may be new to some of the attendees for this webinar, and the goal of it is to really try to spur some thought processes, not necessarily to teach everybody how to go through all of these items and how to implement them yourselves. If you're a director of marketing or vice president of marketing, you don't necessarily need to know how to do these things, but perhaps you might check with the people that are working on them and make sure that we've implemented some of these best practices. So I will warn you that these are fairly advanced tactics, but we're going to focus it just on a theory practice at the moment. So we're going to talk about some new local search strategies, some new ways to differentiate yourself from the field, which is getting increasingly complex for local search. After that, we're going to look at advanced keyword strategies. So what are some of the new ways to conduct keyword research for both search engine optimization and paid search engine marketing? And then after that, we're going to dial things down a little bit and ease off the call with looking at some best practices for designing mobile websites. So starting with the new local search strategies, we've had a lot of conversations with our clients about local search and how to start getting or start maximizing the return that they're getting from local search. This really has started about a year or so ago at this point, when Google started really revamping their search engine results page and including local search to a much larger amount than they were previously. Since then, a lot of companies have adopted local search as an important tenant or important lead generation strategy. As a result, sort of the water level as far as minimum expectations has risen for everybody. So the basics for local search are really the table stakes or the ante to play in local search. You have to have owner verified profiles. You have to have enhanced content like a description and a logo and videos. Of course, as you distribute this information out to different local search portals, you have to have consistent and accurate information. These are sort of the par for the course these days. One thing that is interesting, though, is that we're noticing that the place popularity is becoming increasingly important. So you may have a location or a physical branch that's in a certain part of town, and local search is getting so complex and so evolved now that if that part of town does not have a high population, then you might be at a disadvantage for ranking compared to a competitor who might have a location right in the heart of downtown. So even though they're within the same limits, Google's always looking for how can I provide the most likely relevant information. And if there's a location that's in a center of a dense population of people, they're going to provide that location because it has a higher chance or higher likelihood of being valuable to that user. So the basics haven't really changed, but there are some enhanced tactics that you can use. One of the first things that Google will do when you have a place's listing is go to that website URL that you've provided to them and check to see what's on your website. So if you've told them that you're an advertising agency like we have, and then they go to our website and we have a pizza menu, they're not going to be very impressed with our relevancy for that set of keywords and categories that we've provided. So a simple win is to create actual pages, dedicated pages on your site that directly correspond to the keywords and the categories that you've provided in your local listing. That way when they crawl your website, they see a lot of unique content that's specific to those keywords that you're telling them that you're good at. Another best practice that is very straightforward but underutilized is having a method to the title tags that you're using. And this is closely tied to the next bullet point down there. But you want to make sure that the title tag for your page actually incorporates the keywords, not just your business name. So we want to have a keyword, one of your main keywords, then the location that you're in. So in our case it would be Peoria, Illinois. So we'd have advertising agency, Peoria, Illinois, Marquette Group, digital, local, mobile search solutions. So that would be an example of a successful title tag for a local search. Now where we put these title tags depends on how your business is set up. Not everybody has one page per location, depending on if you have thousands of locations or 3 locations like Marquette Group does in the United States. You may not want to have one page per location. But when you get your website to that point where you can have one page per location, that's a very valuable asset for local search. So we encourage all of our clients and certainly would encourage everybody on the call to set up one actual unique URL per location that's optimized just for this type of local search. So when people will click onto your website from a Google Maps search, we want to make sure that they're getting to that location specifically and they're seeing the contact information for that specific location, as opposed to having to reconduct their search. So it's good from a user experience side, and it's also good from the Google search bots crawling your site and knowing that you have locations there. Going off in another direction here, another quick win that you can have is integrating a Google custom map on your site. When you're using the same data on your website that Google is using to place your location and your places page, it just helps to reaffirm to them that this is the accurate location. Embedding Google Maps or Google custom maps into your site is not something that's challenging to do, but it's something that if you're using a completely proprietary local search or store locator on your website, you may want to put in the Google Maps on that local level page. So that way we have some commonality and some consistency with the way that we're mapping the data. So going on, one key thing to just remember when you're talking about local search is the concept of relative popularity. You know, it's all about ranking, not necessarily being the most authoritative in the country, but being the top relevant choice for any search engine within that immediate vicinity. So a quick, easy win is to look at your competitors and see where they have citations. If they have citations on Google that you can view, like government websites, so if they're registered with the Secretary of State and have their website associated with that. Checking with the Better Business Bureau, see if you have a link to your website and link to your business information there. Other sources are free Wi-Fi hotspot lists. There's all sorts of also industry directories that might be available. So while you're building up your own link profile for each location, also take a quick look at your competitors and see some of the spots that they may have links and citations for their local businesses that you want to make sure that you get your listings on there right away. And then the final topic here for the for sort of the advanced tactics in terms of what we can do on our site is making sure that we're integrating micro formats, which are also known as rich snippets. So I'm sure everybody has come across the example screenshots here on the right of having the reviews that are integrated right into the search results, or having images that are integrated into the search results. Those are a result of having these rich snippets set up, and it's a piece of code that you install on your website so that when the Google search bots are crawling your website, they can see that you have a review, or they can see that this person is the author of this article. There's a lot of detail, and my description isn't certainly doing it justice. But if you have reviews that you want to be listed in your Google search results, then this is a set standard that you can integrate into your website so that those reviews start to get pulled into the search results. You can do it for reviews. You can do it for products if you're actually selling an item. You can also do it for people, which is almost like a business card. So if you have authors of articles that you want to be highlighting, you can also do it for your business name, address, and phone number to let them know that this website is associated with this actual business location. And you really start to get a lot of success when you tie that to what's called the Geo Sitemap. So this is basically connecting all the information that's on your website with the information that you've provided directly to Google Places and to the other local search portals. A Geo Sitemap is just like a regular sitemap, except that it focuses on name, address, phone number, latitude, and longitude. And it's a consistent format so that the search engines and local search portals can go to your website and download all of your location information and match it up with the information that you've provided them on Google Places. There's a correlating file called a KML file, which is a very simple thing to set up. These things are all free to create and free to implement. There's tools to build this. If you want to have an agency like ourselves do it, we can help you make that file and integrate it into your website. This is actually one of the main indicators recently for getting that landmark status on Google Maps. So the landmark status is when you did a search for something unrelated, and you'll see that common landmarks are museums and parks and things like that have a little icon. This is where that information comes from. And so not only do we submit this on our website, but the Geo Sitemap and the KML files also get submitted to Google Maps directly. And you can even integrate it into Google Earth. And Google Earth is that the free tool that you can browse and fly around the Earth. It's been around for a couple of years now. Before I move on, does anybody have any pressing questions? All right. So looking at advanced keyword strategies, this is I wanted to start out here talking about some of the interesting ways that you can do searches. And this is you actually performing searches in Google that you can try to deep dive and find out ways that people may be finding your ads or finding your listings that you want to prevent them to. So having an efficient SEO or paid search campaign, a big part of it is preventing your ads from appearing in inappropriate or unrelated searches. So an example that I have here is Marquette, which is part of the name of our company. It's also a university, and it's college basketball season. So there's a lot of people who are searching for Marquette, hopefully, which is the alma mater of the rest of my family, my parents and my brother and my sister. And so they're in the Sweet 16. There's a lot of activity trying to see the games that they're playing and when they're going to play. So there's a lot of Marquette searches right now that are completely irrelevant to Marquette Group, the agency. So when we have a paid search campaign, we want to make sure that our ads are not showing up for the Marquette University searches or anything related to that. So it's our job to make sure that we limit the way that we set up our keywords so that we're not having unrelated search results. One of the most common things to do is use negative keywords, but there's also different tactics that you can do to research what are people possibly searching for that might be related that we can add as negatives. The first one is phrase search. That's just making sure that you don't allow any words to be inserted between the two keywords. So it would only show when Marquette and group are right next to each other on the search page. The next one is single word search, and it's very important because Google will automatically apply synonyms to your search phrase. And so if we want to see only results for auto and not see results for car or truck or motorcycle, we would put the word auto in double quotes, and that'll make sure that they don't take any synonyms but just that word exactly. Then as we move down the list here, that we're getting a little bit more complex. Site search is a great way to see how Google views your site. You can do a search that is your keyword, and then you put on the end of it site, colon, and then the domain. So you can do marquettegroup.com, you could do newyorktimes.com, and it's a great way to do research on your own site. We use this a lot to diagnose problems on why we may not be ranking for certain keywords with certain clients that we have, because it'll let you know that Google's not finding the word mobile anywhere on your website. Then getting a little bit more complex, you have the ability to remove certain search terms. So if I wanted to have a search for Marquette Group, I could tell them that I don't want to see any result with the word Golden Eagles or with the phrase Golden Eagles, because that's the name of the basketball team. So Marquette University Golden Eagles, I don't want any of those results to come up. And I also don't want anything from Pierre Marquette, the explorer. So I want to see just Marquette-based searches without any of those other two results to get in there. If you have keywords that are commonly used for a wide variety of searches, similar to if you had a search for Packers. So Packers is the name of the Green Bay football team. It's also a word of people who pack things to move them. So you can use these removal or the exclude terms to make sure that you're only getting the set of results that you want. And then an interesting one as far as generating new ideas for search is to use the wildcard, which is the star character. So you could do a search for Marquette Group is a wildcard agency, and it'll provide you every different instance of that phrase. And a lot of people may have a wide variety of suggestions for what's out there. For Marquette Group is a blank agency. We have the most common one is Marquette Group is a directional marketing agency. But that'll give you ideas for what queries people are actually using to find information about your company. And then last but not least, we have if we did want to find information about the Marquette basketball team, then you can use the OR operator, and that will give you only results that match one of these two options. So if I did a search for Marquette, Golden Eagles, or Warriors, that would limit any other alternative that does not have one of those two keywords in it. So how we use that to find negative keywords, you can use all that information, but you also want to think outside the box a little bit. You know, for a pizza company, a national pizza chain, or even a local pizza chain, you might want to go to IMDb and see what kind of results there are out there that have the word pizza in them. Because again, if somebody's looking for Pizza Man, the 2011 movie with Frankie Muniz, we don't want to have our pizza paid search ad that somebody clicks on accidentally and then we have to pay for that. Wikipedia categories for C also is another great source of negatives. Pizza Farm apparently is a related search for pizza. Apparently, it's a farm that people grow all the different items that are needed for pizza. It's news to me. But it's a great example of a negative keyword that when people are searching for pizza farm, unless we've told the search engines that we do not want our ads to appear there, we may have our ads appearing on those searches, which is completely unrelated. Integrating things like the Forbes Top 100 lists. There may be so top 100 meaning like the top 100 celebrities or the top 100 business names. Somebody might do a search for, if you're a moving company or a storage company, you might have keywords such as move, moving, and there may be searches that your ads are appearing on for when did Oprah move to Malibu, or when is Brad Pitt moving to Austria. We don't want to have our ads appear on that, and unless we have it set up explicitly not to do so, they may be there. And then multiple meanings for abbreviations. The easiest example is PPC. So PPC most commonly in our world stands for pay-per-click, but it's also the name of Pocket PC, which was a brand of handheld little, what are those things called? It was the predecessor to smartphones. So we want to make sure that we add that in as a negative. And then last but not least, monitor social channels for your keywords and see what kinds of things that people are saying about those keywords that are completely unrelated to your business. And then take those commonalities and add them in as negatives for your paid search strategy. So looking at sources of keywords that you should be bidding on, so going from negatives to keyword mining and looking for additional information, it's not always about getting as many keywords as possible. A lot of the times it's about pruning out the keywords that are not performing and replacing them with more valuable keywords. One of the most underutilized strategies in paid search is having as many exact match keywords as you can. Those exact match keywords, because of their high relevancy and high relevancy to that particular search, you actually get to buy those keywords for less than you could if you were using a phrase match. So what we're looking for are new sources of exact match keywords of what people are searching for that are based around our phrase matches. So an example of this would be, we bid on the term internet advertising agency, and somebody might be there might be a group of people who are doing a search for national to local internet advertising agency. We want to add that query, if that's a popular query to get to our website, as an exact match. So we want to start bidding on the full phrase then, or for the full keyword of national to local internet advertising agency, and we'll be able to buy those clicks for less than we can by just bidding on the phrase match. Now, all of this information is available in your analytics, regardless of if you're using Google Analytics or Omniture or Web Trends, etc. And then, of course, if you have an SEO strategy that's going on, it's very common for it to be two different departments. So you have your SEO team that's working on improving your organic rank, and you have your paid search team who's responsible for improving your performance and your lead generation. Make sure that there's coordination between the two so that terms that you're just starting and not currently getting traction on for SEO, that you're bidding on those terms a little bit more aggressively to try to capture that traffic. And then the flip side is terms that you are getting success on for SEO, change up your ad strategy a little bit. I just saw an example of doing a search where there was an advertiser who was in the #1 spot for the organic as well as the #1 spot for the paid section, and they made sure that they had a unique message on the ad. So it was a sign up today on the ad, whereas their organic result was just about the company. So they were able to deliver two different messages because they had that coordination between SEO and paid search. If you're going to be bidding on competitor websites, don't forget to add in the competitorname.com. That's usually a great way to get some cheap clicks, that cheap as in inexpensive. And then also www.competitor. So take the different variations of what people might be typing in or misspellings that they might be typing in. And then just when you're going through your analytics and you're looking for these new sources of keywords, try to take into consideration the 3 different tiers that people are searching for information. The biggest tier by far is informational, people who are gathering data, trying to get ready to make a buying decision. But then there's, the navigational ones where people are trying to be led and trying to be pointed in a certain direction. An example of this is, what is internet advertising? They're trying to get somebody to tell them this is what internet advertising is. So you want to try to capture those keywords because those are people who are getting further down the buying funnel. And then last, the most valuable ones are integrating keywords such as order, purchase, compare, find. Those are keywords that people use with your phrase match keywords. So they'll say order pizza or purchase a new pair of slacks. All those types of things we want to have as exact keyword matches so that we can have our ads showing for those advertisers. And last but not least, and I apologize for having to rush through this. We probably are going to go a couple minutes over here, so I apologize in advance. Is just looking at some of the new best practices for mobile websites. Everybody is aware that they should have a mobile website. Unfortunately, only about 10 to 20% of businesses have a mobile website at the moment, so there should be conversation at least started in your companies about how are we going to address mobile, because it's a completely different mentality. There's a book that was from an iPhone developer and designer named Josh Clark who talks about the mobile mindset. And when people are using their mobile devices, they're not paying attention like they are when they're using a desktop. They're not focused in on that task. They're microtasking, like they're checking the weather or checking a sports score. They're looking for local information based off of where they physically are, where they need a phone number, they need an address, or they're just simply bored. They're standing outside waiting for their date to show up, and they don't want to look like a weirdo, and so they're looking on their phone and reading articles and catching up with friends. So it's a completely different mentality, and take that into consideration on when you're building your mobile website. You don't need to have every bit of information that you have on your desktop. It should be driven by the features that you have that are most common to be used on a mobile device. Another interesting point, and this is according to ComScore, is that people expect mobile websites to perform better than a desktop website. So because they're distracted and because they have a high level of cognitive strain, they want your website to be quicker and allow them to do their tasks faster than they could on a desktop. So that means that you have to strip out text and you have to continue to refine the tasks that people can do on a website so that they can perform them faster and faster. A key phrase that I heard at the conference that I loved is, mobile is what people do while they're doing something else. And if you think about your own usage and your own, you're using your phone to respond to text messages while at work, or looking up prices while you're shopping, you're always doing something else. It's very rare that you're devoting your full attention to what you're doing there. And the result of that is that cognitive strain is already high, and you have to make sure that you're not requiring them to think too much about what they're doing, because mobile is not a medium that's conducive to really focusing on what you're trying to do. So as far as the newer best practices, these are very common. Not much has changed, but it's just become more and more hammered home that you have to take these things into consideration. I was looking at the analytics for a small business or a medium-sized business the other day, and 30% of their traffic, and this is a completely localized business, 30% of their traffic is coming from mobile devices, and over a third of that is coming from iPads. So there's a ton of traffic, and that number has probably doubled since 6 months ago when we last looked at this information. So use very, very clear headlines so that when people are distracted and they visit your website, they know exactly what that page is for, and they know exactly what information they're going to find there. Copy has to be extremely short. It has to be about the length of a tweet, because that's the attention span that people have. All phone numbers and all location information should be clickable, so that if they do want to call you, they can very, very easily dial it. They don't have to write down the number that's in an image and then try to dial it. And then keep in mind that when people are on mobile devices, they're not always in a situation where they can call. So you want to have really short forms and really easy to use forms that people can submit from a mobile device where they don't have to type in their name, address, location, billing address, shipping address. So not only is it important to have short forms, but also to really use the autofill and the default values of these things very, very smartly. So you know, the next point there, large padded buttons. When I say padded, I mean the space between buttons. People are using their thumbs. Again, they're distracted. You don't want to have them accidentally clicking on things that are going to add on 20 seconds to their experience of trying to find the information that they're looking for. And again, as I mentioned on the last slide there, it's very important to limit the features that you have on a mobile website. There may be features that people want to do in rare instances, but just include a link to the desktop version. You don't have to have everything available for mobile, but you do have to have the minimum expectation of what people would be using a mobile device to find. Last, as far as the best practices, if you are going to redirect to a mobile version of a website from anybody who types in, so if somebody types in www.marquettegroup.com and we redirect them to the mobile version, make sure you're redirecting them to the page that they originally requested. With social sharing on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter, people are arriving at your site directly at articles or products or blog entries, and if you redirect them to the home page of your site, they're just going to abandon their session. So make sure that when you have your mobile website set up, you have the ability to get them to the mobile version of the page that they're intending to go to. And then last but not least, there's a very extensive tool that Google just released. This came out right around the same time that I was at the conference. It's Google's How to Go Mow, and it's very simple to get to. It's howtogomow.com. It's a very interesting tool that it'll allow you to test how your page is going to look on a mobile device. It'll give you the page speed of how long it took to render. And if that's a problem or not, and how you rank compared to other mobile websites. And then they also will test if it can see the images, if it's rendering properly, and it'll give you some tips on some of the things that we just talked about, such as designing for people's thumbs and keeping your text short and sweet and keeping it large enough so that people can read it. And then, of course, they do an evaluation on whether or not your phone numbers are clickable or not. So this is a free tool that anybody can do, and go out there and test either your website or other websites that you're interested in. And that said, that is our fast and furious catch-up for what happened and some of the interesting new theories that were presented at SMX in San Jose a couple weeks ago. We're going to be having a very similar webinar that we'll conduct after the BIA Kelsey conference that is next week out in Boston. It's called ILM East. So we'll be putting together some of our notes and some of the really interesting information that we found, and having another short and free webinar to transfer some of that information. My information is on the screen here on the left. I'm more than happy to answer any questions or just have a discussion about where you stand with your website. And then Gary, my partner in crime, is on the right there. Together we run the interactive department for Marquette Group. And that's all we have for today, so thanks for everybody's time. I'll hang out if there are a couple of questions as people are leaving, but otherwise, have a nice day.